Hi guys, welcome. It's another episode of Arise with Anita, the podcast. I'm your host, Anita, with Arise with Anita, sitting here with you with the beautiful Melanie Marisol, our great astrologer who's going to be walking us through the astrological forecast that's coming up with this new moon slash solar eclipse that's going on. And I'm going to let Melanie take it away because, after all, she is the expert.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you for having me. So, for all those who are watching or listening, my name is Melanie Marisol, and I help pioneering business leaders of the new economy apply modern astrology to decode their divine assignments and the legacies they are meant to leave behind. So, if you are a co-creator of the new Earth and you don't like the way the old Earth has been operating, I'm your girl. I'm here to help you out. For this particular new moon, we have a new moon in Aries. And that is unusual because we already had a new moon in Aries for the last new moon in Aries. So this is a very unusual event. Additionally, this particular new moon in Aries is happening during a solar eclipse. And I will get into what the actual astronomical event, the solar eclipse, is happening. Additionally, this new moon is occurring at 29 degrees Aries. What does that mean? If you're looking at a chart, you'll see different little ticks, right? They're about 30, right? For each sign in the zodiac wheel. So when you're saying it's on the 29th degree, that symbolizes mastery, whereas the first degree is symbolizing getting your sea legs, so to speak. So with that 29 degrees Aries, it's referring to karmic clearing as well. So it's very unusual. So you have a new moon happening, also clearing karmic gunk, and the vibe is very out with the old, in with the new. So a solar eclipse actually occurs when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun. So this obscures the view of the sun from a small portion of the Earth. So if you're in the Oceania region of the world, you're probably going to see the solar eclipse, whereas if you're over here in the US, you're not going to be able to experience it. Regardless, it does affect us all. And this is, I guess, what pop astrology on Instagram would say is instigating eclipse season, which lasts for a few months, 6 months to be exact. So with that, again, no reason to freak out. I don't like astrology where people are like freaking out about things. They're afraid to go outside of their homes. Like, that's weird. We have to live, right? So with a solar eclipse and eclipse season, I think of it as a time to bring in realignment. It's a time to reevaluate where you're going. You're getting out with the old, in with the new. And the theme with Aries as well is setting boundaries. So I think of it as this is a good time to set boundaries with people or situations and set standards, because all of this stuff is going down during this unusual event that is going to be affecting us until April or so of 2025. So no pressure, but maybe this is the time to be very intentional with setting your intentions, and it's going to carry you through the next 2 years. Well, additionally, we also have Mercury conjunct Uranus, which translates into Mercury retrograde. That is going to also be happening on April 20th. So,
One of my favorite times of year.
right, right. So I think of it in, we'll do the shadow aspects of Mercury retrograde. It is a time of year where I find my technology goes to crap. My plans can be like there's miscommunication. I need to give myself extra time. I don't try to sign contracts, but sometimes you still have to anyway. So I make sure I'm double, triple checking what I'm reading to make sure the communication is clear. Mercury, the planet of metal, goes around the sun very quickly. So because it is metal, the metal affects the technology that we live in, which is metal. So it's a time of garbled communication, but it doesn't mean you can't live, doesn't mean you can't have a launch. Like, never feel afraid to do anything because life goes on, despite what's going on in the cosmos. What else do I have to say about this? Oh, additionally, the last time that we had a solar eclipse in Aries during this new moon Aries season situation was in April of 2004. So, what were you doing in April 2004? That's going to reveal what is going to be coming up for you personally during this eclipse season. So for some people viewing, they're the Gen Z crowd and they were 4 back then. Before, during, and after, it's time to reevaluate what was going on. I was in high school So what was coming up for me at that time? 2004. Oh, it was right before, I think I was getting bullied at that time. So by these bitches, they don't talk anymore. Real talk. Um, and I guess for me personally, I would be sitting with, is there anybody in my life that I feel I'm bullied by, or there's situations I'm not really liking that I don't think I have control over? Let me reevaluate that, and then let's reimagine, readjust the course, And a time to get real during this eclipse season. Am I bullying others? Am I acting out karmic BS? So that's what I would personally be focusing on. What are you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anybody watching or listening, what would you personally be focusing on? What is coming up for you this season? And how can you accept what happened, forgive, absorb, set new standards, and then continue on with your life? So that's something to ponder if you're watching this.
So, in other words, kind of like the overarching theme I've been feeling into, and you can totally tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm not, we can scrap this, but um it's just seeming like all of this is taking place for us to go ahead and show up as our authentic selves. You're putting the boundaries in place. You're figuring out what is it that you want, and you're starting to take the actions to get to those places. And then also, it's an arising of some sort. So obviously, we just had Easter that just passed in a couple of weeks ago, or if you are Orthodox, you might have had it actually last weekend. So it's all about rising. Who am I going to show up? How can I feel into my true and authentic self? And who do I need to be to actually show up in the world as myself versus maybe you were shedding some layers of what you might have been showing up prior to the season of, maybe you're out here trying to put on a front or fake it till you make it. At this point, we're kind of shedding that light and coming back to our true selves.
Yes, I completely agree with you. I like that you're bringing in Easter. In the Christian tradition, Easter's kind of a shit show. It's supposed to be about the resurrection of Christ and how, dead things live again. It's not necessarily about Easter bunnies and chocolate eggs. But I completely agree with what you're saying. Is there a part of you that has been laying dormant? Can you revive that? And we'll get into horoscopes for the collective later in this podcast. And then I will also have timestamps below. So anybody who of any sign, so sun, moon, or rising, whatever resonates with you, you can look it up in the timestamps. So regardless, another theme to be considering is what Anita was saying. Is there a part of you that has been lying dormant? Is there a part of you that you have not shown because you're afraid to reveal your fully authentic self? This is the time to let it shine. We have fiery Aries activating this as we're heading into Taurus season as well on the 20th of April. So Taurus is the archetype of the great bull of heaven. That's kind of the archetype around it. That's associated with the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's leaning into embodiment, the five earthly senses, pleasure, luxury. So it's very much of like being still. So how can we set these intentions in this Aries energy and then lean into the intentions during Taurus season as well? And of course, keeping them in mind for the next 2 years. Additionally, for everybody here, the sun and moon are both conjunct Jupiter and Chiron at the same time. So this is also very interesting. Yeah.
Tell
What
me
does that
more.
Yeah. So that means the sun, the outward expression. So you're talking about your sun sign. It's like the whatever season was going on when the day of your birth. The moon sign, which changes signs every 2.5 days, is your innermost self. So the egoic representation of who you are, the primary archetype that you're here to embody, and then the moon, which is your interior self, your innermost self. They are on top of Jupiter and Chiron, right? So Jupiter, the planet of good luck, abundance, opportunities, expansion, is also interfering and connecting with Chiron, which is the archetype of the wounded healer. So what is the wound that you are meant to heal in this lifetime so that you can help heal others and teach it to them? So there's a lot of with Jupiter and Chiron people. I have Jupiter conjunct my Chiron. the more I lean into my healing, the more abundance and cash flow and opportunities come. So basically, I guess you could say I get paid to do my own healing, but the more I heal, the more I get paid. You know what I mean? So it's not so much like I have to be on display. So anybody that does have their Jupiter conjunct their Chiron doesn't mean it to like air your dirty laundry or anything, but this is the time to lean
Do the
into,
work.
do the work and prioritize it, you know. I think a lot of people are like, I will do that once I hit this money goal. And really it never works out that way. It literally never works out that way. So if anyone has done that, let me know and I will all hail you. Otherwise, then this is the time to lead into the discomfort.
So essentially, we're embodying before necessarily hitting certain levels, certain aspects. Maybe it was you have this idea of this version of yourself, yet maybe you don't have the financials or whatever to manifest, say, like a new wardrobe or a new haircut or whatever it might be for you personally. So I guess what you can say is we're starting to embody that energy without having the physicality of those things. So that when you have those things kind of emulate in your life and they eventually do manifest, it's going to be more of who you already are rather than stepping into somebody you're not currently. So again, it gets us back to that whole shedding of maybe not necessarily faking it till you make it, but how can I be in this energy? What am I able to reflect as and show up as? And how am I going to feel during this period more so than what is this shiny object going to be giving me?
Right, exactly. You could be an astrologer. Look at you.
Hey, life coaching and astrology seem to go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. Astrology is totally real. Anybody who's watching is probably going to be into astrology, but there's haters sometimes, but it's totally a thing. Um, and yes, Anita, you are correct. It's very much about how do we set the stage? How do we set the standards? How do we establish the foundations so that we cultivate it within ourselves? So there's a few signs in the collective horoscopes that we'll be going over that they do have to cultivate this within themselves first so that they can receive it. And then it doesn't always mean running off and taking any action. You have to take the aligned action. So set the intention, sit with yourself, let source speak to you, then take the action. I think there's a lot of hustle vibes in entrepreneurship. And there's periods of hustle in your business, of course, but it can't just be blind hustling all the time because then it's a disaster because you're not allowing the physical body to receive the instructions.
Absolutely. And side note, you can totally build a business while simultaneously slowly enjoying yourself, resting, relaxing, listening to your body. It has been done before. It will continue to be done so even more now as we shift into this new earth. So just take a tidbit, if you need your ideal situation of working is working 9 months of the year and vacationing three, it is totally doable to build a business like that. So, it's not about hustle culture. While we might have a little bit of hustle in us, sometimes it's just about finding out what's right for you and going with that.
Yes. And that's what I do with my readings as well. This is very much about what is your unique blueprint? What is your unique instruction manual, if you will? And how can we create something so that you can cultivate safety and security according to you? Like some people really thrive on doing cold pitching, on LinkedIn for, at least 30 to 70 people a day, where that's really what they get off on that and selling. Whereas someone like myself, where I have to really go out and meet people, it's just more organic for me that way. It's totally fine. No one is in the wrong. But I think sometimes people that are like coaches, they mean well, but they're like, well, you just have to do it the way I did it. And it's like you're not even paying attention to a person's like cosmic makeup. Like, what is that? So we're here to set ourselves up for success. And that is what I have with the collective horoscopes. Do you have any other questions, Anita, before we move on?
No, no questions. Just continue doing whatever you're doing because you indeed are the expert here. I'm just adding my 2 cents when I actually make sense of something to say.
I got you, got you. Okay, so For all of these horoscopes that we'll be going over for the collective, you can read them or you listen to them. If you, these are intended for the sun, moon, and ascendant or rising signs. So Hellenistic astrology, which I do not practice, focuses on the ascendant only. So if I'm a Gemini rising, right, I would only be focusing on my Gemini rising horoscope. You can do that, of course, but I also like to include sun, moon, and rising all together because maybe this particular solar eclipse is activating a deep moon experience for you, whereas others might really be activated with the sun. So anybody that is also in Aries, we're finishing up Aries season at the time of this recording. So this is a really happy birthday to you. And anybody who's going to be experiencing their birthday during Taurus season, happy early birthday to you. So for Aries, suns, moons, or rising, this is the time to realign your truest expression, reviewing your true desires and your relationship to autonomy and freedom. So what do these themes mean to you? And this is also a good time to review and set the standards for your be, do, have equation, which is what do you need to be in order to make the right moves to get what you want to have. A lot of people like to do have, do, be, where it's like I have to have the thing I want first, so then I can do the action, and then I will become that identity. When really the reality is, what is your identity now? What do you have to step into? And then how can you make those right moves to get what you want? For those that are Taurus, sun, moon, or risings, this is the time to face it and fully surrender to deep healing, receiving deep spiritual support, and you're really actually entering karmic completion of some of your deepest wounds. So this is a very
Interesting.
yeah, Taurus is there. It's kind of like it's always darkest before the dawn, because they might be going through it. So all of my Taurus, sun, moon, or ascendants, it's going to be okay. But because we got that 29 degree in Aries of karmic completion, this is the time. I guess you could say the vibes is like full moon a little bit for you guys. So out with the old, in with the new, fully surrender, and the completion part is setting the standards for maybe another spiritual thing to work on for the next few years. Maybe realigning your nervous system. That's kind of the big thing. Since Taurus is also about pleasure. So hang in there. It's always darkest before the dawn. It's going to be okay. For Gemini, sun, moon, or rising, establishing your boundaries to go forth and lead into networking and forging unlikely friendships, or co-creating some interesting collaborations, things that you wouldn't think go together. So this is time for you to step into the leadership role that your friend group needs, especially your local community. And because 2020 has happened, this could also be your online community as well. So your online communities that you are an active part of as well. So be a leader. Cancer, sun, moon, or rising. This is the time to cultivate loving discipline, to fully activate this interesting magical wormhole kind of portal that you're in. And this is really an activating time for you to fully lay the foundations for your career and life's work. And the vibe here is very much, it's time to fully talk your talk and walk your walk, right? We want to lead with integrity, with whatever it is that is your true life's work. Again, with the Aries season vibe here, it's like, what are you really meant to be doing with your career? And if you're currently in a job that you do not like, what steps can you do to get to the direction of where you want to be going? Leo, sun, moon, and ascendants, this is a time to share and promote the wisdom, right? Don't be preachy about, just don't be preachy about it. Like, don't be obnoxious. So basically, this is a time that you could set the foundations to publish a book, maybe something to keep in mind for the future of what you've learned. So you could be a student of life and acquire knowledge forever, but all that means nothing unless you apply it. So also with Leo energy, especially those that might have their sun in the third house, right? Of Leo sun in the third house, that's a good sign to have like a YouTube channel that really blows up. It's just something to keep in mind, like, how can I encourage my audience to do the same? How can I encourage them to share what they learn as well? We're here to set the collective on fire, if you will, with truth and the truest expression. For the Virgo sun, moon, and ascendants, leaning into the discomfort that is a healthy, intimate relationship is going to be the theme that's coming up for you. So our hookup culture really promotes the regular disconnection from source, especially for women in their wombs. There's a lot of belief that women should basically act like men, like man whores, and like sleep around. So this is a time to probably not do that. We're ending hookup culture. We're done with that. This is the time to set new standards for others to access your sexuality and your sensuality. So it's easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of day-to-day living, but prioritizing your sensual life will actually lead to major transformation during this eclipse season. So how can you lean into that sexuality and cultivating intimacy with yourself if you don't really want to be dating right now? So if you're with a partner, how do you cultivate the intimacy with a partner? And most importantly, how do you cultivate intimacy within yourself? For Libra, sun, moon, and risings, this new moon invites you to set the tone for what you're seeking in a romantic relationship. Libra is very commonly always associated or thinking about other people, which is a great quality to have. But this new moon is asking, what do you need to thrive in a mutually beneficial love partnership? What are your non-negotiables? What qualities does your dream man or woman need to provide for you in order so that you can cultivate trust in this dream relationship? Okay, so list those out. And then how can you give these qualities to yourself first? So that's the thing that people really get mixed up to with dating. I personally am involved in the Sister Goddess community, which is associated with Mama Gina. She wrote the book Pussy Reclamation, which I recommend everybody read. And I think women kind of get caught up in dating. Like, this man has to have all these qualities, right? But not only does the woman not really match that kind of man, like, does he want to be with you? But then, great, you listed out these qualities you want this man to have, but do you have those yourself? Are you cultivating that within yourself first? Right.
You attract what you are, not what you want. That goes with business, that goes with manifesting, all these what we would consider woo-woo principles. A lot of times when you're out to get something, you end up having these goals, but in reality, until you match that energy of whatever it is you want and until you're bringing to the table the same qualities you're looking for, it's going to be a hit or miss. And even if you find it, it may not be the most aligned fit. So just keep that in mind and, just be conscious of like what it is you're trying to attract from what present state you are in.
Right, right. And it's again, there's also that kind of have to be situation versus be to have equation. What do you have to be in order to get those right steps to take in order to get what you want to have? So just something to keep in mind, Libras. I have that challenge myself. So for Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Risings, trying new routines and adopting fun new rituals this is the time to do it, especially if the ones you have been doing have been a little stale. So it's a good time to shake things up. So what habits of yours need to be rejuvenated? What systems, health, business, or otherwise, need to be readjusted? And how can you set your well-being up for holistic success, especially in the next 2 years? So systems are everything in business. If you're watching this, you're probably into business. You probably have one. So how can you set it up for thriving? How can you set it up holistically? And then, of course, what is happening in the business is also usually happening in the physical body as well. So how can you balance work and creation with exercising and moving your physical body? A lot of people are like, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'm like, that's not the way to live. So how do you have that balance? Let's see, Sagittarius.
Sleep is healthy. I'm just saying, sorry.
No need to apologize. I think people misunderstand sleep, and I think we're also probably going to be moving towards new frontiers in the realm of sleep. In America, people are really into working themselves to the bone, and like, what are we even doing this for? You know what I mean? So this is something else for Scorpio. How can you create safety in being still and actually resting versus always feeling like you have to be productive? I actually had someone say to my face that he's like, I like I don't really like relaxing. And when I'm relaxing, I want my relaxing to be productive. I was like,
But
okay.
your relaxing is productive because no one, let me tell you, y'all, basically, if you're out here over hustling and overworking yourself to the point where eventually you're gonna manifest sickness
Mm.
or some type of physical body shutdown, it is not freaking worth it. Take the time, allow yourself to relax. And one thing wealthy people value a lot of times, and I'm talking about true wealth, I'm not talking about this hustle culture bullshit, but they value getting rest when needed because guess what? You're going to actually be able to create more in the shorter period than when you're really out here trying to hustle, do, versus, hey, I'm resting when I need to. I feel really creative now, so I'm going to flow with that. But then when it comes back to like, I feel tired, I'm going to allow myself to actually sleep. You're meant to be sleeping. There's a reason that it's part of our normal cyclical cycle. Fall into that. It's totally fine. There is no judgment. I think a lot of times, especially business owners, especially if you're in your call it the baby phase of the business, you think that you have to be overworking to make that routine a thing. It's not necessary. You can go with ease and flow and trust that you're going to be taken care of either way. It's your creativity at the end of the day that's actually going to match it. It's not going to be the energy of just working. Just saying.
No, I
Coming
get,
from a former workaholic.
no, I get you. I'm not a workaholic, but I'm definitely a recovering perfectionist as well. It's very easy to get caught up in um overworking yourself because like it's not perfect enough before you release it into the world. So how do you allow yourself to go with the flow is a big thing. Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Ascendants. This is the time. This is the time to share what is on your heart. And it does not have to be heavy or like airing your dirty laundry per se. So maybe what you could start with is like what themes or insights have been coming up for you so far this year. And this is the time to really share them with your audience, right? Allowing your inner fire to explode and be the spark that sets the collective ablaze is kind of the intention for this season, right? For you. So, how can you use the fiery energy from this new moon to increase your charisma and natural charm? And if you are Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant that thinks that you're lacking that, what can you do to cultivate these qualities within yourself first? Especially if you're like a Sagittarius sun, but maybe you have like a moody Scorpio moon, for example. Maybe you're like, oh man, like I'm not really a Sagittarius person. Say you were like a Cancer rising, which is also very introverted. It's like, I don't have that ability, but it's like you actually do because you chose to be a Sagittarius sun. So how can you also take this time to enhance the natural charm and charisma that you naturally carry around? All right, finishing up here with Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. This is the time to lean into vulnerability, especially when it comes to interacting with some of the most triggering people in your life, which usually is your family. So, using the energy from the solar eclipse in assertive boundary setting Aries, it's the time to set new standards when interacting with your family. So, setting hardcore boundaries with your family members, I only do that when it's necessary. So how can you allow the strong emotions that pop up inevitably to flow through you without disrupting your peace? And how can you allow yourself to break any karmic baggage with the family members that you do have, especially with those family members that's like, no matter what you do, they feel like they're always triggering you. And it seems like maybe every time you encounter them, they're trying to one up you, and it's just like, what is your deal? Or maybe they're like they're always disparaging you, they're always putting you down. Um, there's some people I know you have to cut off your family, unfortunately, because the family just can't get it together. But I think it's always important to occasionally go back to things, maybe revisit. And actually, when you are encountering these same family members, you realize, actually, I've done a lot more healing and this doesn't really bother me anymore. So that's cool. So now you've reviewed and now you can set new standards. And you're like, oh, actually, I don't mind my stepmother right now. Like, it's cool. I will bring down the boundary where I never talked to her at all. And I had upset everybody, right? Maybe this is a time like, oh, it's actually going really well. I've healed a lot. So maybe we can hang out for a weekend and it's not a disaster. So good time to review, good time to reflect, and set the standards. for your new family interactions going forward. For Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Ascendants, this is the time to unleash your creativity, leaning into observation and practicing active listening, being present with others during the time you're spending together. So you are here to embody the archetype of the cosmic genius. That's why you chose to be an Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. However, you are here to also make your futuristic visions of a new Earth inviting and accessible. We don't need to be too caught up in the woo-woo or into fancy jargon. Like, how can you bring it down to earth? So new economy wealth creation is a team sport. So leaning into the true power move that is listening more than speaking is what's going to be really good for you. And finally, last but not least, we have Pisces, Sun, Moon, and risings. So this Aries new moon is asking you to get real with your finances, with the money, so that you can cultivate a sense of safety. So, do you know what else helps you cultivate a sense of safety? Getting real with what you value. So it's easy to whip up a number for what you think might be your ideal monthly or annual monetary goal. However, unless you know what you value, that arbitrary number doesn't always align with what you're actually striving for. So taking the time to map out your values and then kind of dream up what you think are your desires and then calculating how much you need to live your dream life actually helps you I guess you could say it's a type of being realistic, right? How do I say this?
Be blunt.
Yeah, no, because okay, so there's that. I think okay, I'm getting this with Pisces especially because Pisces has a tendency to be like, I don't like the word realistic because Pisces is all about fantasy and like boundarylessness and thinking out of the box. But by taking the time to sit down, writing out your values, actually realizing, do I really want a Maserati? I don't even care about cars. Like, why am I hung up on this? Like, do I really want a G-Wagon? Like, I don't really care about this stuff. That is a time to be like, oh, actually, I don't value that. So that is a type of being realistic, I think. And it's like a fun realistic. And then actually gives you like your nervous system the ability to calm down so you can make better decision making. And then actually you find that you don't actually need 80 grand to live your dream life, actually. So that's a lot less stressful, in my opinion, than striving for $2 million a year because someone you admire makes $2 million a year. You know what I mean? So get real with your shit. Face all your bullshit at once. So ultimately, Aries season is asking you to set the stage for a journey of reclaiming your self-worth so that you can make better decisions. So instead of running around like a chicken with your head cut off, you're actually coming from a very grounded way, which can be challenging for dreamy Pisces. So that is the end of my collective horoscopes. Do you have any other questions that have come up from me sharing these?
No, I mean, I think you did a really good job of explaining the eclipse. So let's just reiterate for a sec. You don't have to fear it. You only fear it if you don't if you don't want to do the work, then it might be a little challenging for you. But, if you're watching this, clearly you're interested in not only knowing the forecast of the astrology that's going on, but also interested in developing yourself and working on yourself because again, we're all here to heal and work through our own aspects. So this is a time for you to really just unleash yourself.
I like that. Yes, unleashing is the key. Unleashing, and for some signs, it's going to be a lot more reevaluate. So it's going to be a doozy for some signs, as I explained, because some people had to reevaluate and release, and then also set intentions. So just for those that know, the new moon, you can set intentions for 3 days afterwards. So you don't have to stress. It doesn't have to be done like today. So if anyone has any questions, you can hit me up on Instagram at Melanie_Marisol.
Well, thank you, Melanie, for a wonderful astrological forecast. She is my go-to person in breaking down what is going on with not only the collective, but sometimes with going on in your actual personal chart. Because I know from a person who's looked into very many types of astrology, from Vedic to tropical and vice versa. Sometimes you just really want to have an understanding of what is going on with you in a big picture conclusion. And Melanie does a really great job at simplifying it to terms that you can actually not only understand, but actually digest and really have a better, deeper knowing of what it is you're going to be going through. So, we are going to be continuing these astrological forecasts. So, I look forward to having her back on the podcast. And again, if you want to connect with her for either a reading or just to see the beautiful content that she's out here releasing and, adding value to the world via what is going on with our star signs, excuse me, not just the sun. Um, you know, reach out to her. Her name will be down below in the description bar, and I hope you guys enjoy your evening slash morning, wherever you may be watching this from.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.